SNL just released photographs, authentic ones, finally drawing a direct line between Meghan Markle and her alleged yacht-era proximity to Prince Andrew. And the moment Saturday Night Live allowed that reference to surface on Weekend Update, it was deliberate. The room understood precisely what it was doing, because when Colin Jost jokes about images the public has not yet seen, that is no longer comedy. That is signaling. The message was unmistakable. These are not fabricated images. These are not mislabeled photographs. These are reportedly new visuals circulating privately that place Meghan inside Prince Andrew's yacht-linked social orbit long before Harry, before titles, before the rebrand. And according to sources, the reaction was immediate. Behind the gates of Montecito, Meghan allegedly unraveled, shouting, throwing objects, spiraling as legal teams and public relations advisors scrambled to contain what SNL had just set in motion. Because once late-night television implies that visuals are imminent, the story stops being speculation. It becomes a countdown. Now, let's be clear. Meghan Markle did not emerge from nowhere. Before the palace, before the titles, before the victim narratives and the Netflix tears, she was a working actress operating inside elite social circles she technically had no organic access to. That is not insult. That is logistics. Because struggling cable television actresses do not typically vacation in billionaire playgrounds, appear in invitation-only yacht environments, or circulate freely through private members' clubs connected to global power brokers, unless someone opens those doors. And those doors do not open at random. This is where the yacht girl rumors enter the discussion. Not as slurs, not as character attacks, but as industry shorthand for women placed within elite leisure ecosystems where access is currency and proximity is the transaction. No one is claiming every yacht is a crime scene, but pretending yachts are harmless floating brunches for aspirational social climbers is naive. And when Meghan's name repeatedly orbits that environment, the question stops being whether she was present. It becomes how early she arrived. This narrative would remain gossip if it stopped at yachts. It ceases to be gossip the moment Prince Andrew enters the frame. Because Andrew is not controversial, he is radioactive. Multiple sources, including veteran royal researchers, have alleged that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew well before she ever met Prince Harry. Not afterward, not through marriage, but prior. Through overlapping elite circles, through private environments. Through the same world Andrew has spent decades attempting to escape. And this is why that matters. If Meghan knew Andrew before Harry, the fairy tale collapses. The outsider narrative collapses. Then this was not destiny, it was positioning. And that is precisely why this subject remained buried for so long. Because once Prince Andrew's name attaches itself to an origin story, everything about the rise demands re-examination. The timing. The introductions. The friendships. The access. That is not defamation. That is consequence. And now that SNL has cracked the door open, this conversation is no longer optional. It is underway. Whether Meghan's team welcomes it or not, let's end the fairy tale now. These were not innocent boat trips. These were not influencer vacations. These were not casual girls' getaways. Elite yacht culture is a closed ecosystem, and anyone claiming otherwise is engaging in self-deception. Yacht invitations are controlled. Guest lists are curated. Wealthy men arrive knowing precisely why they are there. Women arrive understanding what is expected, whether it is ever stated aloud or not. This is why events like Yacht Week are not marketed openly. They are whispered about. They are passed discreetly. And they are structured so nothing follows you back to shore. So when Meghan Markle's name continues to surface in this world, people are not being malicious by asking questions. They are being rational. Because no one accidentally ends up there. You are invited. You are vetted. And someone powerful approves your presence. That is not rumor. That is how access functions. Now let's examine the place where all of these worlds quietly intersect. Soho House is not merely a restaurant, not simply a hotel, not a trendy networking lounge. Soho House is a gatekeeping mechanism. No cameras. No press. No accountability. It exists for a singular purpose, to connect ambitious individuals with powerful ones behind closed doors. And the man positioned at the center of Meghan Markle's early orbit within Soho House is Marcus Anderson. Now, this may not be accurate, but there are whispers suggesting that Marcus Anderson's name may allegedly not even be Marcus Anderson. How valid that claim is remains unclear. But returning to the facts. Marcus Anderson was not a casual acquaintance. He was not a guest. He was the global membership director, the literal gatekeeper determining who gained access and who did not. And yes, this is the same Marcus Anderson who introduced Meghan Markle to Prince Harry, remained embedded in her inner circle, stood prominently at her wedding, and then quietly vanished from public view. People do not disappear when everything is benign. They disappear when scrutiny becomes dangerous. Because once questions emerge about how introductions occurred and why, the networking illusion collapses. This is where the discussion stops being abstract. Author and researcher Kirby Summers has alleged for years that photographs exist, photographs reportedly showing Meghan Markle aboard a yacht in Phuket alongside Prince Andrew, dating back to the early 2000s. And before anyone rushes to dismiss this as fabrication, let us be precise. Summers is not referencing the mislabeled images that have circulated online and were already addressed by fact-checkers. She is referring to entirely different photographs, images she claims are already in the possession of major media organizations that have chosen not to publish them. Now pause here, because this is the question no one is willing to confront directly. If these images do not exist, why does every institution involved behave as though they do? Media outlets do not sit on nothing. Editors do not bury irrelevance. Legal teams do not mobilize around fiction. Silence of this magnitude only occurs when publication would simultaneously damage multiple powerful interests. And that is why this story never disappears entirely. It is postponed. Until now. Because once comedians, commentators, and cultural arbiters begin referencing what newsrooms refuse to show, the pressure shifts. And suddenly Meghan Markle is no longer contending with rumors. She is contending with time. This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Because if the story were false, entirely incorrect, or wholly manufactured, the response would be straightforward. You deny it. You contextualize it. You shut it down decisively. That did not happen. Instead, what followed was silence, repositioning, distancing, and legal maneuvering. Not transparency, but containment. There was no clear denial of early familiarity with Prince Andrew. No timeline clarifying elite access. No explanation for how a mid-level actress moved within circles typically reserved for billionaires and royalty. There was only absence. And in media, silence is never neutral. Silence is strategy. It is the same playbook deployed when answering causes greater harm than avoiding the question altogether. And the longer that silence persists, the louder the unanswered question becomes. Now let us consider the individual this narrative quietly undermines the most, Prince Harry. Because once the possibility is introduced, even hypothetically, that Meghan Markle knew Prince Andrew before ever meeting Harry, the optics shift permanently. Suddenly, Harry is no longer the prince who rescued someone from obscurity. He becomes the last person to recognize the room he entered. And that is uncomfortable. Because if Andrew existed in her orbit earlier, if elite networking preceded romance, then Harry did not uncover an unknown figure. He became the endpoint of a long trajectory. That does not negate genuine affection, but it does erase innocence. And once the public begins viewing a royal marriage through the lens of strategy rather than destiny, there is no reset mechanism. People continue to ask, why did this not surface years ago? The answer is simple. Stories like this do not emerge when they are dangerous. They emerge when they become useful. For years, protecting the image served media interests. For years, questioning it invited lawsuits, loss of access, and backlash. But the environment has shifted. The public has grown fatigued by curated victimhood. The appetite for polished reinvention has diminished, and comedy has become the final outlet where uncomfortable truths can surface without authorization. When late-night jokes begin circling a name, it signals that editors, writers, and producers already understand the terrain. They are gauging readiness. This was not accidental. It was a calibration. And the audience did not recoil. Here is the reality no one can reframe. Reputations do not collapse because of a single allegation. They unravel when too many unanswered questions align. A yacht here, a club there, recurring names, repeated introductions, persistent silence. This is not about proving one isolated moment. It is about recognizing a pattern never intended to be viewed in full. And now that it has been, it cannot be unseen. Because the public no longer asks, is this true? They ask, why was this never explained? And that question follows interviews. It shadows appearances. It trails every carefully constructed statement. This was not exposure. It was the curtain lifting just enough to reveal the stage was never empty.